Today on Won't You Be My Gamer, we are joined by Vanessa Wilkie, who is the Senior Curator of Medieval Manuscripts and British History at the Huntington Library in Pasadena, California. Thanks for being here, Vanessa.
Thanks for having me.
Nikole, what are we playing?
We are playing Librarian. Tidy up the Arcane Library.
Yes.
Sounds intense? It is going to be.
We will be doing some Shakespearean slang maxing, decoding the medieval manuscript, learning how to write Middle English script with quills and ink.
Real quills.
Real quills. And talking about how to preserve old books, some of which might be magic. Right?
All books have their own magic to them. Yeah.
Yes, well put, but some actually
So true.
have spells in them. So what's your job here, Nikole?
So I am a librarian. This is my library, and I've spent hours, more hours than you think, organizing this already. So just give you a quick little tour. Look at all this.
Does it hit close to home?
Exactly.
Do you have any crystal balls at work?
No.
Okay.
We have some globes.
Okay, globes,
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
Globes are yes.
Yeah. Quills,
Quills, yes.
ink, yeah,
Yes,
gotta
yes.
have it.
Not in the library, though. 'Cause-
Seems a little messy.
Yeah. We're a pencil only kind of.
Great. Number
place.
2?
Blackwing.
You
Everything's changed. All right, so I'm gonna finish up this nice library, and then I'm gonna take you guys into the journey of a messy library.
Okay.
How are you sorting these? Like, is it
So they all
topically?
so they all have their section to go in, and so we have 2 maps here.
I see.
Yeah, and so you just have to like zoom in and look at it.
I see.
Yeah, monsterology. It looks like it says beef and music, but it's bard. Holy magic, alchemy, the basics.
As every library should have.
Yeah. Then we have like language, dungeons, archery, art. Again, standard.
Yeah. Although in all
Standard
fairness,
stuff.
the Huntington lacks a dungeon. I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
That we know of.
That we know.
So we can talk about here.
How is the Huntington sorted compared to your average neighborhood library?
We are primarily sorted. We sort our books by size.
Oh.
We try. I mean, it's always nice intellectually when you can keep collections together. Like you want like with like as much as possible. But because of shelving constraints and because books come in so many different shapes and sizes, it's easier to keep, books of all one size on one shelf.
Oh, interesting.
Luckily, these are all pretty much the same size, but I get to decide what goes where. Like, this is a category, and the category goes here, but I kind of decide. But other than that, I do want to put it in order of volume.
Do you sort books at the Huntington by the Dewey Decimal System, or is there some completely different sorting system that you go by?
Totally different. So we have a general collection, which are like books that you would find like in a university library or public library. And those we use it's called the LC, the Library of Congress system. And then for our special collections, which is the overwhelming majority of our collections, we sort them by, the collection that they came with, by the kind of material it is, by the size. So it varies.
And so I'm almost done with this library. And then I'll get your advice on how to start over.
Does the Huntington have books of an arcane nature or weird collections? Really?
Yes. I mean, really anything could be, I suppose, kind of weird, depending on whatever the lenses you bring to it. But, old books about magic, books with charms in them.
Oh,
Cool. And are those just available for the general public to go see?
You have to be a reader, a researcher, so you have to apply and have a research need to see those books and be 18 or older.
because of the Witchcraft?
Exactly. We like to save the youth. No, just because of the fragility and the rarity.
But do you have examples of the magic books you can at least tell us?
Yeah, we have one that's one of my favorite manuscripts. It's from the 15th century. So it's not printed by a printing press, it's handwritten, and it's written by a bunch of different people. And it's written in Latin and French and English. There's a variety of languages. And it's got charms and recipes and descriptions of like amulets and how to put them together. And
Well, in that vein, we actually have a question from our Patreon, patreon.com/won'tyoubemygamer. What manuscript's topic was most or is most out of the ordinary in your archive of work?
I guess what I think is most out of the ordinary is just the wide variety that we have. So we have in the collections, religious prayer books. We've got political treatises and legal texts and alongside these magic books. And so they all live harmoniously.
Is there such a thing as a medieval cooking book or a medieval self-help book?
Ah, recipe books. For
Really?
Sure. Yeah, they're cookery books.
Are you starting a new game?
Yeah.
Wow, so did you beat the other one?
I thought that if I beat the game, it would take me to a second room that would be more game. And then I realized, no, this is the whole game.
Kind of anticlimactic.
Yeah, for sure anticlimactic. And so I just want everyone to see what a pretty done library is before I show you guys the chaos that we will be playing.
Okay, so you're going to have a ton of new books to put away.
I'm going to have hundreds of new books to put away.
Where does the Huntington get its books from?
We get them from gift and purchase, typically, is what we say. So we sometimes buy them through auction houses or rare book dealers. And then we also have a lot of their collectors who amass, large book collections, and then they want to gift them to an institution so that they can be more widely available to researchers.
Very cool.
Is this triggering to you at all?
Oh my gosh, this is my nightmare.
Thank you guys for watching and supporting Won't You Be My Gamer. We hope you'll stick with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can continue to support by liking, commenting, subscribing, and you know what really helps? Hyping.
Hype button.
Hype 3 times a week. We want all 3 of them, okay? Patreon.com/won'tyoubemygamer. Great place to find us too.
Or head on over to pbssocal.org/gamer. Let's get back to the show.
So this is what it looks like when you start.
How many books do you think you have here, Nikole? 1,000. Do you know the size of the collection at the Huntington?
We have 12 million items in the library.
So that's actually the number I think this is.
Has anyone done the math of it would take this long to read all the books in the Huntington Library?
It wouldn't be possible, I don't think, because that also includes archival collections. So like deeds, letters, handwritten materials that are outside of like this codex form.
I'm learning that there are 3,072 books in this game.
3,000.
So it's like the same as the Huntington.
Yeah, but still not an insignificant number.
We have,
It's a variety.
we have a scribe of our own here, Nikole,
A little bit, yeah.
who has written.
Scribe?
She's written down for our minigame slang words or phrases or what have you. We were hoping that you could give us the Shakespearean translation for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. These are phrases that people say now that we want to know how they might have said very, very, very long time ago.
We can help you with context.
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
if you
yeah.
need.
When I'm like, I've never heard this term.
Yeah. The first one is give the ick.
Give the.
Do you know? Give the
Yeah.
yeah.
It would be like, this paramour makes me want to purge my humors or something like that.
I like that so much more. I'm going to use that for all my many paramours.
Okay, let's see. Our next one is chalant.
Chalant,
Yeah.
which is like the opposite of nonchalant,
Yeah.
right? That might be
Extra.
like extravagant, which is probably where extra comes from.
Yeah.
I like that. I like
It's just
that.
they're elongated versions of all of the like short and slang terms that we use.
Now, how about be so for real right now?
Oh my goodness. I think it would be like,
Be genuine.
be forthright.
Be forthright. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay, how about dead ass?
It might be something like being overcome by honesty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or genuine.
Well, flow state.
Also, can you?
In the zone.
Vibin'.
Vibin'. I got so much done, I was in the flow state.
Yes.
Like when Shakespeare was writing and he got into
Yeah.
that.
Got into the flow state.
state.
Oh. I think Shakespeare kind of wishes he could use that term, flow state. That seems exactly accurate.
Okay. And then last one, slop.
Oh gosh, slop.
Yep.
That's a real old word.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that it remains true today.
Yeah.
If it's called slop, it's slop.
It's timeless. It's timeless
It
slop.
looks like
Classic
slop.
timeless slop.
It's
Yeah.
slop.
It's
This is mesmerizing, by the way, watching you do this.
you could do it by size like the Huntington. too.
I could too, but that won't actually help me too much.
Sometimes once we have them all like by size and by kind of like as much as possible, then we follow numerical order for things so that they're easier to find on the shelf. So there's layers and layers. We triage the organization.
One of the prize books of the Huntington is the Ellesmere Chaucer. Can you tell us about that?
So the Ellesmere Chaucer was Geoffrey Chaucer, who wrote the Canterbury Tales, was alive when the Scribe started copying his tales into this book. And it was the first it was probably the second time that they tried to take each one of the Pilgrim's Tales and compile it into one text instead of originally the tales all circulated like serially, like individual stories. So the Ellesmere Chaucer is kind of the most complete, and we today see it as the most authoritative early version of the Canterbury Tales. And it's deluxe.
It's beautiful. It's really stunning to see in person.
Yeah.
And so how do you decode reading Chaucer? Because I think a lot of people look at it and they think they kind of look like the English characters we use today, but Middle English looks quite different in terms of its script.
So the best way to do it is break it down letter by letter.
There are some characters that look like modern English characters, but then there are lost characters like Thorn and Yo. What are the story behind those?
Yeah, so the Thorn is a really old, like Anglo-Saxon letter that carries over, and then it falls out in like the 18th century, late 17th century, and it looks like a Y. So we read it like a Y, but it makes a TH sound.
Okay.
So like when you see things that say like ye old, haberdashery, it would be the. They would read it as the.
We have the quill and the ink here. Should we try to
You should. Yeah, I think
write
so.
something? Nicole, do you want to try too?
Yeah. The quills typically would come from, you can see they're curved. So they would come from, like, if you picture a goose or a duck, they're kind of like football shaped. So those would come from the sides.
Those are the best to write with?
Those are the best because they're the longest.
Well, we need a table to use the quill and ink.
Yeah.
So maybe we summon one of the arcane books from the Huntington Library.
That makes a lot of sense.
And we can use that to conjure a table.
Witchcraft.
All right,
Witchcraft.
here we go. There's our table.
Perfect.
Perfect. So we just, this is wax that's covering the ink.
It is, but it's really twist off. So,
Okay.
yeah.
This is nerve-wracking.
I'm glad you're doing it.
There we go. Do you have any recommendations for what we should try to write?
My recommendation is to try and do as many downstrokes as
Okay.
possible. Quills will hold the ink better. If you try and write an upstroke, it'll kind of sound like nails on a chalkboard, like, and you'll feel it bumpy.
Is there like a good or right amount of ink to get on the quill
Don't be
tip?
afraid. It's okay. You're not going to hurt
More
your
than
goose
that?
anymore. Yeah.
More than that?
That's fine. So you see the quill comes to a point, and there's actually a tiny little slit in that point, and the ink soaks up that.
There,
Yeah.
yes. All right. Oh, and it's absorbing because the paper
Because the paper it's nice handmade paper. A lot of the books, especially medieval manuscripts that we have, are written on, it's not paper, it's parchment, so it's animal skin, and that the ink will soak into. But then when the printing press is developed, they switch to a carbon-based ink instead of an iron gall ink because carbon, it's a little stickier. So they would press the ink on thus the printing press, into the page, and it would stick to the top of the page instead of soak into it. That's gorgeous.
My O is just like a blob. It's
Usually
not-
the O you do downstroke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So a lot of it is, even the reason why some of the letter shapes look so different is they might kind of actually end up being sort of the same orientation, but they're shaped so differently because when you write with a quill, you can't as easily do upstrokes as you can if you're using a pen or a pencil.
Oh,
or a
so
marker.
were some of the letters then specifically a reaction to what they were using?
Yes, the medium is dictating the shape of the letter. Yeah.
It's taking a lot longer than I thought it would.
Imagine writing the Ellesmere Chaucer now.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like, so were there certain texts where they just took so long to write that maybe one scribe didn't do all of it? It was
Absolutely, yep. So they would do this, they would take things like this, it's called a gathering, and they would each work on one gathering at a time so that you wouldn't lose track of which part of the text you're copying. So they'd just do it section by section, and you could have multiple scribes working on the same text at the same time.
And then after they would bind those sections together, or how did it work?
Yep, so they would then take each gathering gathering is the term they use for printed books, and then in manuscripts they call them quires. And so they would take each one, and they would usually be like 8 to 10 leaves, or sheets of parchment or sheets of paper, and then they would stitch through them, and then they would ultimately stitch the gatherings together along the edge, and then that's how you bind it into a book. You stitch it to the spine, and then you put the cover on separately.
They used like animal to bind it?
Yep, they would use like wool threads or silk threads, and then they would sew them onto straps that were usually made out of leather or alum tod, which is also, it's rather than being tanned, it's treated a different way, but it's still animal skin. And then they would use animal, like rabbit glue, You kind of boil down the fat and you make a binding agent out of it, and then you paint that on like paste.
I wrote down, won't thou best mine score, which would be, you're at the arcade, you're at the medieval arcade and you're playing darts or something, and then you get the high score, and then you turn to your friend and say, won't thou best mine score?
Amazing.
Yeah, that thing that people always say.
Yeah. Nikole, you gotta try this.
Okay. Do you want to try and sort some books?
Absolutely. How do you stop forgeries from happening then? If I can replicate this, how do you wade through the forgeries and the fakes?
We're always on the lookout for forgeries and fakes. Sometimes the forgeries and fakes become highly collectible, like when they're made by a famous forger.
Oh, okay.
Which is, kind of, I should say famous, like infamous forgers.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's tells because there's watermarks in paper, and sometimes they're using paper that is later than what the text looks like. Or now we can use kind of scientific study to make sure that the materials are appropriate for the time period. Provenance matters a lot in all of these books in this game, we don't know where they came from. Like you said, they could have been stolen. So we pay close attention to the provenance. Like most early books kind of are accounted for in other libraries, so we can trace the copies over time. So we really want to make sure that we know where the book came from and who had it before that and who had it before that.
A cat signed this. A medieval cat did
That's
this.
so good.
Across your
Do you remember the game we played when we talked about medieval monks? And what was that game? In that game, I played a Pentiment.
Pentiment, yeah.
And so in that game, I was a monk or a brother. I was some sort of like religious priest adjacent type. And every day we went to work at the church and we scribed. We copied books with the quill, and like for hours, that was our job. A baron came to visit and ordered a certain book copied. Like rich people could come in and be like, I want a copy of this. And then someone would spend a month doing that.
That's exactly right.
That's crazy.
That's exactly what happened.
And I learned that from video games.
It doesn't matter where you learn it, it's that you know it that matters. Yeah.
We learn so much from video games. That's why this show exists.
Yeah, like
Honestly.
literally. Yeah.
There's a couple of known medieval manuscripts where at the end of the text, it's called a colophon, and it would be the monk who would sign, or the scribe would say who it was and when the date they finished it. And there are some where they actually wrote something about like, I'm blind now, or I thank God every day that I'm done with this book. It's about like the physical agony of writing out these books. So
I'm
those
bummed books lost that.
Yeah.
Little passive aggressive note from publisher.
Yeah.
That would have been fun.
Talk about the carpal tunnel.
Yeah.
They work really hard, so on pages like this, they would line it or rule it before they started writing. And so they start off very carefully, and then you can see the letters kind of slip above or below the lines, or they make an error and they cross it off, and then just keep writing.
Do you have to repair and do triage on old manuscripts and books?
We do. We have a phenomenal preservation lab with conservators who do all the treatments, and our scientists and artists, like a beautiful blend of science and art.
Can you handle books with just your bare hands? Do you have to wear gloves?
If your hands are clean and you don't have...
you haven't been eating like Cheetos beforehand?
Exactly. Cheetos are the worst. I mean, Cheetos are the best, but they're the worst for books.
Cheetos.
Any final thoughts on what you want people who are visiting the Huntington to know about the library and the books there?
That we have a lot up in there, like walking over them. We have, most of our storage is underground in basements because it takes up a lot of space. And that there's so much more there.
If you read, you might learn something.
Yeah. Again, it doesn't matter how you know it, it's that you know it. So.
Well, thank you so much for coming by and
you.
teaching us about Middle English and sorting books with us. People, go visit the Huntington in Pasadena. It is such a cool spot, the library and the gardens. And also, check out Vanessa's book. Oh. It's been hidden here the whole time.
Surprise!
You wrote the book on Alice Spencer.
I did.
A Woman of Influence.
A Woman of Influence.
By Vanessa Wilkie. Check it out. Fascinating, because I love a powerful woman. Speaking of, Nikole, how can they continue to support some powerful women?
You can support us by heading to our Patreon. It is patreon.com/won'tyoubemygamer. And it has BTS, it has reminders, it has ways that you can send questions. It's a great little community, and we would love if you could join it. And you can always go to pbssocal.org/gamer to make a donation. Can't do this without you. Give what you can.
I wasn't actually checking what any of those books were. I was just putting the white books on the shelf.
You did good enough.
Did good enough.
Yeah.